Do you know who I am? A Marine shoved her at the bar, not knowing she commanded the Navy SEALs. Most people imagine that military bases are loud. Engines screaming, boots pounding, drill instructors barking orders across sunburned parade fields. But the truth is, past 2100 hours, most bases fall quiet, hushed, dim, like a beast resting before the next day's battles. On Naval Base Coronado, the quiet carried a particular weight, the kind that came from too many classified operations, too many young men and women holding secrets behind their eyes, and too many commanders who slept only in fragments. And among them was Captain Elena Ramirez, a woman whose presence carried the quiet of oceans, the precision of steel, and the burden of command heavier than any rucksack. Most people on base only knew her title, Commander of Naval Special Warfare Group 1. But the real truth, the one written only in the files locked behind 3 layers of clearance, was simpler and far heavier. She commanded the SEALs. All of them, every mission, every operator, every life that the U.S. government committed to darkness. That night, though, she wasn't thinking about command or missions. She was thinking about the dream she'd had again, faces she couldn't save, names she couldn't forget, and the quiet apology she whispered to them each time the sun rose. And so, at 2103 hours, wearing civilian clothes and exhaustion-like armor, she walked into the Driftwood, the small, off-base bar where service members went to be human for a little while, a place where rank was left at the door, usually, but not tonight. The bar was dim, the lighting soft amber, and the air full of country music and conversations that blurred into one another. Elena ordered ginger ale. No alcohol. Not anymore. She took a seat at the far end of the bar, always with her back to the wall, always scanning without meaning to. Long day? The bartender, an older Navy veteran, asked. Elena gave a small smile. Long year. Before he could answer, footsteps approached. Heavy ones, uneven, the kind that told her someone had been drinking. A group of Marines in desert hoodies pushed through the door, loud and full of restless energy. One of them, broad-shouldered, electric with ego, made a beeline for the bar. Corporal Mason Briggs, 24, 2 deployments, chip on his shoulder, large enough to sink a ship. He slammed down on the bar right beside her, close enough that her glass trembled. "Hey, old man," he barked at the bartender. "Whiskey, something strong." The bartender looked at Elena, then at the Marine. "Easy, Corporal. You look like you've had—" "Did I ask what I look like?" Briggs snapped. "I said whiskey." Elena exhaled quietly, a moment, just enough for Briggs to notice her. He turned, eyes narrowing. "You got a problem?" he asked. Elena met his stare, calm, controlled. "No, just trying to have a quiet drink," Briggs scoffed. "You people always want something. Who even are you?" She turned back to her ginger ale. And that's when it happened. A shove, hard, sudden, violent enough to knock her glass over and send ice scattering across the counter. The bar fell silent. Conversations froze mid-sentence. The bartender leaned forward, alarmed. Briggs stepped closer, towering over her. "Hey!" he barked. "I asked you a damn question. Do you know who I am?" Elena didn't move, didn't raise her voice, didn't posture. Instead, she slowly wiped her hands and spoke. "No, but I know you need to take your hand off me." That quiet sentence hit harder than any punch. The Marines behind Briggs muttered nervously. One of them tugged his sleeve. "Bro, leave it." Briggs yanked his arm free. "She's some officer from admin," he sneered. "Think she's above us frontline guys." Elena looked at him, really looked. "You're angry," she said softly, "but not at me." He stiffened. "Shut up. You lost someone recently. A friend, a Marine, a tiny flinch, the kind that only someone who had seen too much would notice." Briggs swallowed, and something ugly twisted inside him. "She thinks she's a damn therapist," he laughed bitterly, looking to his squad mates. "Lady," I swear he stepped forward, too close, too aggressive, and he shoved her again, only this time, it didn't land, because Elena's hand shot up, faster than a blink, catching his wrist mid-push. The room froze. No one moved. Her voice dropped to a level only he could hear. "Corporal," she said, "this is your only warning. Stop." He tried to yank his arm back, tried again. Couldn't. Her grip was unshakable, iron disguised in quiet, and Briggs, suddenly sober, felt fear crawl up his spine. Who Who the hell are you? Elena released his wrist and stood. Only then did he realize she wasn't shorter than him, she wasn't intimidated, and she wasn't alone. Two Navy Master-at-Arms had silently stepped inside the bar because they recognized her car in the parking lot. Briggs looked around, confused. What is this? Why are they… The bartender sighed. Son, you really don't know who you just put your hands on, do you? Elena didn't answer. She didn't need to. One of the MAs stepped forward. Captain Ramirez, ma'am. Are you all right? Briggs blinked. Captain? Ramirez? No. No way. But then, a woman at the far table gasped. Oh my God, that's her. That's the SEAL commander. And the bar erupted into whispers. Is that really? She commands special warfare. She's the one SEAL Team 7 answers to. They say she plans missions for Black Flag ops. Briggs staggered back, shaking his head. Wait, no, that's impossible. A woman doesn't. Elena didn't flinch. Corporal Briggs, she said quietly. Come outside, he stammered. Am I under arrest? No, Elena said. You're going to walk with me, and you're going to listen. Cold night air stung Briggs's face as they stepped outside. Elena walked ahead, hands in her pockets, posture relaxed yet unreadable. Briggs followed, silent, heart pounding. They stopped near the shoreline. Waves crashed softly against the rocks. The moon painted the water silver. Elena finally faced him. Do you know why I didn't have you detained? Briggs swallowed. Because you're going to destroy my career personally? She shook her head. No. Because I recognize the look in your eyes. I've seen it on too many operators, too many Marines, too many kids forced to grow old too fast. Briggs clenched his jaw. You don't know anything about me. I know more than you think. She stepped closer, not intimidating, just present. You lost a Marine in Syria, Sergeant Ellis, your squad leader. You blame yourself. His breath caught. How? How do you… Special warfare tracks interbranch trauma patterns. When a Marine struggles, we get notified, and I read your file. He stared at her, confusion and anger twisting together. You're SEALs. Why do you care what happens to Marines? Elena looked out at the water. Because loss speaks the same language. Doesn't matter the uniform. He swallowed hard. He died because I hesitated. I didn't clear the corridor fast enough. If I'd been faster, stop. Her voice cracked like a whip. Not loud, not harsh, but final. You didn't kill him. War did. Briggs shook his head violently. No, I should have… You should have done what? Predict an ambush? Outrun a bullet? Be superhuman? He had no answer. Elena's gaze softened. Do you know how many operators I've lost under my command? Briggs didn't move. 23, she whispered. 23 brothers and sisters whose lives ended while I sat in a command room praying they'd come home. Her voice thickened. I remember every one of their names, their faces, their families. A beat. I carry them with me, just like you carry Ellis. Briggs's breathing trembled. For the first time that night, he wasn't angry. He was breaking, Elena continued. What you're feeling is grief, not weakness, not failure. He looked down. I shoved you, he said quietly. Twice. I put hands on a superior officer. You put hands on a human being, Elena corrected. A hurting one, and now you're ashamed. He nodded, eyes burning. She stepped closer. Good. Shame means you still care. It means you're salvageable. Briggs looked at her, really looked, and didn't see rank. He saw someone who understood pain better than anyone he'd ever met. Slowly he whispered, What do I do now? Elena studied him for a long moment. Then, you show up tomorrow at 0600. My office. His eyes widened. Captain, are you assigning punishment? No. Her voice softened. I'm assigning purpose. 600 came too early. Briggs stood outside her office in full uniform, hands clasped so tight his knuckles whitened. The door opened. Come in, Elena said without looking up from her desk. He stepped in, nervous, rigid, unsure what awaited him. Elena gestured to a chair. Sit on the desk were two folders, one labeled Counseling Referral, the other labeled Special Assignment, Interbranch Training Companion Program. Briggs's heart dropped. Ma'am, am I being removed from active duty? No, she said firmly. You're being given a lifeline. He blinked. A lifeline? Elena folded her hands. You're going to shadow SEAL training units, not as a trainee, but as a liaison. You'll learn how they confront trauma, discipline, and leadership. You'll sit in on briefings, on debriefs, on psych evaluations. Briggs's breath caught. That sounds like you're preparing me for something. I am, Elena said. I'm preparing you for command. He stared at her, stunned. Why? I shoved you. I disrespected you. I embarrassed the service. Elena leaned forward. Corporal, the military has enough perfect officers. What it doesn't have is leaders who have walked through hell and crawled back with humility. Silence. Then she added, and because if someone doesn't reach you now, you're going to lose yourself. Briggs lowered his head. A tear hit the floor. Just one. Elena's voice softened. Stand up, Marine. He did. She extended her hand. Let's start over. I'm Captain Elena Ramirez. Briggs swallowed hard. Corporal Mason Briggs. They shook. A reset. A beginning. The next weeks were grueling, not physically, though there were moments when SEAL training runs nearly broke him, but emotionally. Elena made sure he was exposed to every facet of what made special warfare unique. The AAR circles where operators cried without shame. The chaplain sessions where silence mattered more than words. The psych screenings where trauma wasn't dismissed but dissected. The brotherhood that didn't judge, only healed. Briggs learned about resilience not from yelling sergeants, but from quiet warriors who carried more pain than he could imagine. But the hardest part was the final stage. Elena called him into an observation room overlooking a kill house drill. Below them, a SEAL team moved like water, fluid, precise, deadly. Elena, Briggs asked softly, how do they do it? How do they walk into darkness every day? She kept her eyes on the operators. They don't walk into darkness, she said. They carry light with them, the light of the people they lost, the light of the ones waiting for them at home, the light of every mistake they promised to never repeat. He let that sink in. You want to honor Ellis? She asked. He nodded. Then stop trying to be perfect. Start trying to be honest. His voice broke. I don't know how. You will, she said. And I'll show you. 1 month later, Elena gathered Briggs and his commanding officers, a formal review of his conduct. Briggs stood at attention, ready for whatever was coming. Colonel Reeves, his CO, opened Briggs' file. Corporal Briggs, he said slowly, your misconduct at the Driftwood was serious. You put hands on a superior officer. Typically, this would result in disciplinary action. Briggs nodded, jaw tight. But, Reeves continued, Captain Ramirez submitted a detailed report of your progress. She speaks highly of your discipline, humility, and growth. Briggs blinked. She did? Elena nodded once. The colonel closed the folder. Given her recommendation and her rank, your record will reflect a formal reprimand but no lasting damage. You will remain on duty, and you will continue the inter-branch training program. Briggs exhaled, trembling in relief. Thank you, sir. As the room emptied, he turned to Elena. Why did you go to bat for me? Why risk your reputation? Elena smiled faintly. Because when I was your age, someone did it for me. Briggs froze. You, but you're a commander, she said. A woman in a world that wasn't ready. A Latina officer in an era that doubted my every step. I wasn't supposed to lead SEALs. I wasn't supposed to make it past Bud S. And yet, here I am. He swallowed. Did anyone ever shove you? Disrespect you like I did? Elena laughed softly. Worse. Much worse. A pause. And I forgave them, because broken people break others, and healed people heal others. Briggs stared at her with new understanding. You healed me. No, she said gently. I just showed you the way. You did the walking. 2 months later, Briggs returned to the Driftwood. Not for alcohol, not for distraction, but because he needed closure. When he walked in, the bartender looked up. Well, I'll be damned, he said. Didn't think you'd show your face here again. Briggs approached quietly. I came to apologize. You already did, son. But go ahead. Briggs looked around at the tables, the stools, the place where he'd lost control. I disrespected the uniform. I disrespected a good woman, and I hurt people who didn't deserve it. The bartender studied him, then nodded. You've grown. Briggs exhaled. Behind him, the door opened. Elena walked in, still in uniform after a long day. Briggs stiffened. Captain, she raised an eyebrow. Corporal, he stepped forward. I'm different now, he said. Not perfect, but better. I know, she said. He swallowed. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. Elena smiled softly. Make sure you don't give up on yourself. They sat, talked. Not commander to subordinate. Not hero to soldier. But two warriors who'd carried grief and refused to let it rot them from within. The bartender sent over 2 drinks. Ginger ales, both. To new starts, Elena said. Briggs lifted his glass. To new light. A week later, Briggs received orders. He was being promoted, Sergeant Mason Briggs. Officially recognized for his growth, discipline, and leadership potential. Elena stood with him during the pinning ceremony. Afterward, he approached her quietly. Ma'am, he said, I still think about that night at the bar, the shove, the anger, the way I demanded, do you know who I am? Elena chuckled. Yes, I remember. I was asking the wrong question. She tilted her head. Oh, what's the right one? Briggs looked at her with a calm, steady gaze. Who am I becoming? Elena's eyes softened. That, she said, is a question worth asking. Strength isn't defined by never breaking. It's defined by how you rise after you do. Sometimes the most powerful leaders aren't the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who lead by example, by empathy, and by courage, the kind that grows in silence. Because in the military and in life, true command is not about power. It's about responsibility, healing, and helping others rise.